Evam, thus, Sada, always. Atmanam, self. Yogi, one who is in touch with the Supreme Self. Vigata is freed from. Kalmashaha, all material contamination. Sukhena, in transcendental happiness. Brahma samsparsham, being in contact, being in constant touch with the Supreme. Atyantam, highest. Sukham, happiness. Ashnute, attains. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation: steady in the self, being freed from all material contamination, the yogi achieves the highest perfectional stage of happiness, in touch with the Supreme Consciousness. Translation with repetition: steady in the self, being freed from all material contamination, the yogi achieves the highest perfectional stage of happiness, in touch with the Supreme Consciousness. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Self-realization means knowing one's constitutional position in relationship to the Supreme. The individual soul is part and parcel of the Supreme, and his position is to render transcendental service to the Lord. This transcendental contact with the Supreme is called Brahma Samsparsha. Actually, Brahma Samsparsha is in italics, just underlined here. Thus ends the wonderful transcendental Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Nitinamine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we are seeing this wonderful chapter of Sankhya Yoga, and one after another, these verses of Krishna are so powerful and revealing to us in our life. Let us see today's verse, what it has in store and what we can learn. So the title for today's session is How to Achieve Perfect Happiness. Let me start with a story. The story is of a carpenter. And this carpenter was very dexterous, very skillful. He knew all the arts of carpentry. And he had been serving his master, a contractor carpenter, for quite some time. And as it so happens in life, he grew old. So when he grew old, he decided, enough, I worked hard. It is time for retirement. So he goes back to his contractor and he says, though I have been loving my paycheck every month, but I have decided now to move on in life. I'll take retirement and I'll spend the rest of my life with my family members. So hearing this, the contractor was very sad because this guy has been his loyal contractor for a long time and has been doing very, very good quality work. The contractor, the boss, actually told him, I just have one request before you actually decide to move on in life. I want you to do this one work, this one job which is pending. Why don't you do this? And once you do this, you can retire. This person could not refuse. And he started doing that housework. But this time, compared to all other previous times, his heart was not there. He didn't really want to work. Sometimes people don't do it with heart and feeling. It's pulled and they're, doing some services. But this man, somehow he could not refuse, and he did it out of some compulsion force. So he used substandard material, shoddy craftsmanship, not really good. And the work which would have taken maybe 1 year, he finished it in 3-4 months. And he went back to this contractor saying that, well, I have done it, and the house is ready. So contractor, to his utmost surprise, said that, actually, I'm so happy with your service for such a long time. I wanted to gift you this house key to you. This house belongs to you. This man put his hand on his head and thought, oh my God, what did I do? Had I only known this before, that this is going to be my house where I'm going to live, I would have not taken any shortcuts. I would have not cut any corners. Similarly, in our life also, sometimes we don't realize the choices that we make, the decisions that we are taking, the endeavors that we are doing is actually deciding or defining what kind of a life we will have. That is the house where we are living. Happiness is something which is pursued by every one of us. We all have our own definition of happiness. And that definition, that belief, that conviction, that understanding motivates or strives us to do different kinds of activities. In this verse, Krishna is telling, Atyantam sukhamasnute. Sukhena brahma samsparsham atyantam sukhamasnute. Mind you, we all have a choice. We can experience a happiness of highest kind, which is eternal, blissful, which is beyond the material understanding and purview of happiness. It's much bigger. But unfortunately, because we cut corners, we take shortcuts, we have different other understanding of happiness, we get a miserable life. Let us understand what Krishna is trying to say in this verse and how all of us can experience this eternal happiness in our lives. I want to, it's already highlighted. I want you to see and meditate on these two words, Brahma Samsparsham. You can say loudly, Brahma Samsparsham. Brahma Samsparsham. Yeah, all of you online also, you can say Brahma Samsparsham. Okay, I hope you have spoken. So this word is very, very important in this, because this is the key, this is the clue by which we can experience a bliss which is unknown to us mostly. So what Krishna is telling, that steady in self, being freed from all material contamination, the yogi achieves the highest perfectional stage of happiness in touch with the Supreme Consciousness. So when we come in touch with Brahma Samsparsham, we can experience that. Of course, it leads to many things. Bigger the kalmashaha, one has to be fixed in the self, then he'll be freed from material contamination. Then he can achieve that highest perfectional stage of happiness. But the key prerequisite is Brahma Samsparsham, and that is highlighted in the purport. 2 lines, 3 lines purport. Self-realization means knowing one's constitutional position in relationship to the Supreme. Mind you, this statement may look like we know this, or we have heard this, we have understood this, but not true. If that would have been true, our actions, our beliefs, our position, our constitution, it will be very different. We seem that we know this, but we don't act in that knowledge. So it is, Prabhupada is writing, self-realization means knowing one's constitutional position in relationship to the Supreme. We don't care. We think, yes, this is what life is. I'm supposed to work hard. Probably if you go back even little, I was born as a child, I'm supposed to play. If I'm a boy, I have certain kind of toys that I like. If I'm a girl, I have a certain different kinds of toys, but I'll play. I'll play with Barbie doll, I'll play with some Lego, I'll play with this. Everybody is playing, I'll also play. Then I'll get into school, or I'll go to some good schools, try to be the best student there. And then everybody is doing, so I need to have a bike, I have also bike. This kind of bike, that kind of a bike, we keep chasing, we get that, then we get married. Sorry, not so early. Then we go around, looking for someone who's interested in us, or I'm interested in them, and then life goes in that, and then finally we get married because we think when we get married we will be happy. Then after getting married we need to have children, and when we have children we think we should have our own house, and when we have our own house we think we should have cars, and we keep doing this, keep chasing, because this is what is our constitutional position. We are thinking the whole society around me is doing like this, why not me? And we keep doing, very forgetful of our constitutional position. Means, who am I with respect to the Supreme Lord? We come and close our eyes and fold our hands in front of the Lord when we go to the temple, but little we realize that we have a relationship with him. He is an eternal person. I am an eternal soul. I have a relationship with him. We don't know about this. That's why the whole life, like that shoddy craftsmanship, we keep doing so many things. Oh, this is only going to give me happiness. This pizza, this thing, that thing, this movie, here and there with my family members. But actually, every such situation, every such indulgence only makes us feel more miserable, and the distance, like that dangling carrot in front of the donkey, the distance always remains the same. The moment we reach that position, again the carrot has gone further. The moment we reach there, again the carrot has gone further. That's why Prabhupada is telling the individual soul is part and parcel of the Supreme, and his position is to render transcendental service to the Lord. This is our constitutional position. Last class we had a discussion regarding the identities. This identity of ours is unknown. And the individual soul is part and parcel of the Supreme, and his position is to render transcendental service to the Lord. This transcendental contact with the Supreme is called Brahma Samsparsha. So what we will do today, because we just spend 1 hour time, it's very difficult to squeeze a lot of things, but pay attention to very significant fundamental thing which Bhagavad Gita talks about, which Prabhupada brings about, which can help us understand the difference in the happiness when we come in touch with the material sense objects, and the difference in happiness when we come in touch with the Supreme Brahman, Brahma Samsparsha. Quality. What is the difference in the quality? To see that, the word, that's why I have highlighted Samsparsham. If you recall, Bhagavad Gita uses this word Samsparsham elsewhere. Ateshu ramate buddha. Yehi sansparshaja bhoga. Dukkha yeno ye evate te adi antavanta konteya ateshu ramate buddha. See the word samsparsha. Sparsha is to touch. Sam usually is a qualifier. Samyak rupena sparsha. So it is, you are touching completely. Samsparshaja bhoga. Ja is produced. Yehi samsparshaja bhoga. The happiness which is produced when the senses come in touch with the sense objects. Ja, it is produced. Samsparsha. It is not a physical touch. It could be like the eye seeing a beautiful form. It could be ears hearing beautiful sound. It could be the tongue tasting palatable dish. It could be the nose smelling something fragrant, or as gross as touching. Yehi sansparshaja bhoga. There is happiness. But what Krishna is telling, dukkha yona evate. Dukkha yoni. This is that bhoga immediately turns out to be misery. Dukkha yona evate. Adi antavanta konteya. There is a beginning and an end to this. It is not eternal. It is not ever increasing. It is not always available. O Konteya, O son of Kunti, Adi Antavanta Konteya, Na Teshu Ramate Buddha. Intelligent men, they don't indulge in this. The translation is, an intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end. And so the wise man does not delight in them. Nobody is denying that there is happiness. There is a strong allurement of indulging. There is a strong attraction because the material world is geared up towards that. We have to do it. The senses are meant for sense gratification and we should go pursue. But what is he saying here is the word is buddha. Intelligent men, they see that these are really the sources of misery. When the senses come in touch with the sense objects, there is an apparent feeling of bhoga, enjoyment, but mind you, that is the source of misery. So, O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, the wise men do not delight in. I want to read the purport of this verse. Pay attention, very interesting, because these things do not sink in. For us, for anything to sink in, we need to have affirmations, confirmations, then reaffirmations, and that is what exactly Prabhupada does in the purport. Let's see how Prabhupada establishes this fact. Material sense pleasures are due to the contact of the material senses. Very true. Material sense pleasures we all have experienced. Nice palatable dish or something which is very, very tempting, beautiful form, beautiful sound. We helplessly get attracted. Material sense pleasures are due to contact of the material senses, which are all temporary because the body itself is temporary. This actually, if one gets this, we are looking for happiness through our body. But I mean, it's a fact that this body is not permanent. So how can we expect the happiness which we are deriving by the senses which belong to this temporary body will be permanent? It's not possible. Because the senses are belonging to this temporary body, the pleasure which is derived when the senses come in sense objects is also temporary. So Prabhupada is saying material sense pleasure are due to contact of the material senses, which are all temporary because the body itself is. In fact, after a certain age, our eyesight becomes blurred. Ears also become, we can't hear properly. You can't eat so many things because there'll be some problem or other, cholesterol, this thing, blood, sugar, so many problems, and you are barred. So where is the question of enjoying by repeatedly indulging in them? A liberated soul is not interested in anything which is temporary. This is the difference between a liberated soul and a soul who's conditioned. Conditioned soul is seeing happiness, everything in this temporary world. Little does he realize that this happiness also is temporary. But a liberated soul is not interested in anything which is temporary. Knowing well the joys of transcendental pleasures, how can a liberated soul agree to enjoy false pleasure? In the Padma Purana, it is said, Ramante yogino anante satyananda chidatmane iti rama padanesho param brahma vidhiyate. The mystics derive unlimited transcendental pleasures from the absolute truth. And therefore, the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, is also known as Rama. Rama means who is the source of unlimited pleasure. And look at the great fortune of all of us. We chant the names of Lord Ram every single day in the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which has Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And the Lord and his name Rama are non-different. So we are touching Brahma Sansparsha. We will come to that. Just hold on how that we can experience. That touch has to be perfect. If that touch is perfect, if we are touching the Brahman perfectly, we can actually experience that transcendental happiness. And what happens when somebody experiences that, we will see that also. But further, Prabhupada is telling in the Srimad Bhagavatam, because these verses are very, very fundamental. This is a verse, this is not just simply, let's fill up the pages. I have to write something on the purport, so I have to write. These verses are very direct. These verses we should know fully well to understand the triviality, the temporariness, the frivolousness of this kind of pursuits in life. But that becomes such an important thing in our life when we don't have the right knowledge. Prabhupada is quoting the verse which is spoken by Rishabhadev to his sons. Nayam deho deha bhajam nirloke kashtan kaman arhate vidbhujam ye tapo divyam putraka yena sattvam sudhyet yasmad brahma sokhyam tvanantam. Now this verse of course, this verse is quoted by Prabhupada in countless times, many times. But this verse, those imageries, those analogies, those examples which Rishabhdev is giving should always stay with us, should always be there in our chittam somewhere. That impression should not go. Nayam deho deha bhajam nirloke kashtan kaman arhate vidbhujam ye. Vidbhujam refers to hogs, pigs who eat stools. Vidbhujam. They're also eating. And they're eating and they're thinking this is the best way of life. This is how the senses are getting, today I got some stool from X, tomorrow I get from Y. Y stool is better than X, and I'm happy. I'm taking pleasure in that. But what Rishabhdev is telling, Nayam Deho Deha Bhajam Nirloke, after having gotten this human body, don't work hard. Kashtan Kaman Arhate Vidbhujam Ye. Because the sense pleasure for which you are working hard is even available to lower species of life, like Vidbhujam, like the hogs, like the pigs. It is available to the lower species of life. Why are you working hard for this? Then what? So then what you should do? Tapu divyam putraka yena sattvam. Tapu is austerity. Do this austerity. What kind of austerity? Divyam. It's transcendental austerity. What happens by this? Yena sattvam suddhed. Then your sattvam, your existence becomes purified. Yasmad brahma sokyam tvanantam. How many of us will get tempted seeing a pig or a hog eating stools, and we will develop a desire? Wow, what a life he has. Let me also jump into that drain and start eating along with him. We don't develop that kind of a desire because we know that the happiness that he's deriving is lowly. It doesn't match with the happiness that we can experience. Even that's, let's say it's a very gross example, who compares one with a pig or hog's happiness? Somebody who's doing something very lowly, which is really abominable, human form of life. He's doing something, let's say, going to bar, or I don't know, maybe bar also someone who's in the mode of ignorance, it's like this heaven. Something which is very abominable, we are seeing it's really filthy, and he's taking a great relish. Prabhupada gives the example of one place where they use a drink called nafi or navi. There is I think in Bangladesh or somewhere in Burma. In Burma, what they do is, any animal which dies, they have one common place where they'll bring this dead animal and put it in that place. So it decomposes, it rots, and there is some liquid which is formed from that. That liquid they drink with great relish. And they find when devotees are frying hot puris, that smell, it is obnoxious. They can't bear that because they're so used to one particular kind of happiness which is derived by drinking such abominable thing. Now imagine all of us who are, I'm assuming that none of us have tested that. All of us who have been used to taking this relishable Krishna prasadam, one day we are given, or we're not even given, it's somewhere it is close to, and that smell comes. Who will feel like going and drinking that? We don't want to. Like that, there is a happiness which is there, which we don't know. Very interestingly, if you see Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that the consciousness of living entity are of three types. One is Sankuchita. Sankuchita means it is not fully developed. Like the tree, which is the soul which is there in the body of a tree. The consciousness is not at all developed. It is standing naked in all kinds of winter, summer, and tolerating this. Barely able to express its emotions. It's there, but it is very Sankuchita. It is very constricted. Then there is Mukulita. Mukulita is little developed, which is the animals. They've got a little better body. They can express certain emotions. We see dogs, cows, they express different kind of emotions to their owners. So that's all possible. But the final one is Vikashita. Vikashita is the human beings who've got a very developed consciousness. They are meant to take pleasure. They are supposed to have finer taste for everything. That is what Rishabhdev is telling. Don't waste your time. Kashtan kaman arhate vidbhujam ye. Why are you wasting time? The vidbhujam also are getting sense pleasure. Why are you working hard for the sense pleasure? Oh divyam putraka yena sattvam. Do this austerity. By this, what will happen is your existence will get purified. Vikasita also has levels. And once you develop that higher senses, tapo divyam putraka yena sattvam, suddhyet yasmat brahma sokyam tu anantam. You can experience brahma sokyam, which is anantam, which is eternal. It is not limited. It is not temporary. It doesn't have a beginning and an end. It is anantam. So the translation is, my dear sons, there is no reason to labor hard for sense pleasure while in this human form of life. Such pleasures are available to the stool eaters, hogs. Rather, you should undergo penances in this life by which your existence will be purified, and as a result, you will be able to enjoy unlimited transcendental bliss. Therefore, those who are true yogis or learned transcendentalists are not attracted by sense pleasures, which are the causes of continuous material existence. Yeah, mind you, this is another thing which we forget. Continuous material existence. Sankaracharya sings, what is that? Punarapi janama, punarapi janani, jathare sayana. Punarapi janana, punarapi maranam. Punarapi janani, jathare sayana. Again birth and again death, again entering into the womb of a mother. What is the cause for that? Just the desire to enjoy this material world. Punarapi janama, punarapi maranam. Again you die, again you take birth. Again you enter into the womb of mother. Who wants to enter into this? It's a very difficult, very, very painful existence that is. And then again you come out, then again you go through this, again you die, again you take birth. Or Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings, Anadi karma phale, divanisi hiya jwale. Anadi karma phale. How many actions we have done, how many past actions we have done, and we're burning in this fire of material existence. Divanishi, day and night, divanisi hiya jwale. What a painful, sorry state of existence this is. Therefore, those who are true yogis or learned transcendentalists are not attracted by sense pleasures, which are the causes of continuous material existence. The more one is addicted to material pleasures, the more he is entrapped by material miseries. This is the conclusion of Sansparshaja Bhoga, the first Sansparsha. Next, let's see what happens when we come in touch with Brahma Sansparsha. A classic example of this comes in the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Dhruva, the 5-year-old boy, did some severe austerities, and by his austerities and penances, Vishnu got pleased, and Vishnu appears, the 400 form, and Dhruva wanted to glorify, but he didn't have the right words to glorify Vishnu, and Vishnu touched his console to Dhruva, that Sansparsha, just that touch. Something happened in Dhruva. Let's see what happens in Dhruva. There's a verse which comes in Bhagavatam 4th canto. Yo anta pravishya mama vacham imam prasuktam sanjeevayati akhila sakti dhara swadhamna anyamscha hasta charana shravanatvagadin pranan namo bhagavate purushaya tubhyam. Yo anta pravishya mama vacham imam prasuktam Sanjeevayati Akhila Sakti Dhara Swadhamna. One of the names of the Lord is Akhila Sakti Dhara. Akhila Sakti Dhara. He is the container. He is the holder. Shruti Dhara, we say. Shruti Dhara, who hears and who can remember and he can explain. The Lord is Akhila Sakti Dhara. All the energies are there in the Lord. He is the source of all energies. So Dhruva is telling, this is the first verse, Yo anta pravishya mama vacham imam prasuktam sanjeevayati akhila sakti dhara swadhamna. Sanjeevayati. Sanjeevani is that thing which was brought by Hanuman to enliven Lakshmana when he was, unconscious because of the arrows of Indrajit. So here, Dhruva is telling Sanjeevayati Akhila Sakti Dharaswadhamna. When the Lord touched me, when I had the darshan of the Lord, Yo Anta Pravishya, he entered in my Anta, he entered inside my Antakarana. Mama Vacham Imam Prasupta, my senses, my words, all my spiritual senses which were sleeping. Yo Anta Pravishya Mama Vacham Imam Prasuptam Sanjeevayati, they became enlivened. Because the little energy from the Lord, that Satchidananda energy flew. Akhila Sakti Dharaswadhamna. Anyamscha hasta charana shravanatvagadin. Pranan namo bhagavate purushaya tubhya. Translation is, my dear Lord, you are all powerful. Akhila Sakti Swadha, Akhila Sakti Dhara. After entering within me, you have enlivened all my sleeping senses, my hands, legs, ears, touch sensation, life force, and especially my power of speech. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you. You've enlivened me. We heard the purport of that. What happens, Sansparshaja Bhoga, why we should not do this. This purport of this verse has got 4 paragraphs. Very, very, very interesting. What exactly is the spiritual happiness? What happens? How do we experience this? Let's see the purport. This is the first paragraph. Dhruva Maharaj could understand very easily the difference between his condition before and after attaining spiritual realization. He could. So basically, this is not a state where some external person has to come and satisfy us. Well, now you're spiritually realized, done, signed. You can feel. Dhruva Maharaj was not a very exalted personality. He was a 5-year-old boy. He could understand very easily the difference between his condition before and after attaining spiritual realization. And seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face, he could understand that his life force and activities had been sleeping. Like that in our life also, as I said, in that soddy state of craftsmanship, where we just think this is how it is, I'm supposed to live life. थोड़ा नौकरी मिला 40,000 का 50,000 के लिए ट्राई करते हैं 50,000 हो गया 60,000 देखते हैं हो गया तो ठीक है नहीं तो चलने दो. Like that we live life and we think this is how the life should go on. This is how our the definition of happiness is there in our, it is hardwired. This is how we will be happy in life. But here it is mentioned, he could understand that his life force and activities had been sleeping. The moment we come in touch with Brahman, various ways, we will see what are the different ways we can come in touch with Brahman. Our senses become enlivened. We can actually feel, we can get a glimpse of that spiritual happiness. Even though we are conditioned, we are imperfect, we don't have full faith, we have no realization, still we can get that. So unless one comes to the spiritual platform, his bodily limbs, mind, and other facilities within the body are understood to be sleeping. So there is a material platform where all of us are living, thinking this is my body, this is my duty, this is my family, this is my society, this is my country, this is the world, and all these things we think about, all in the bodily platform. But there is a spiritual platform where I come to understand that I am a spirit soul, part and parcel of the Lord. That is self-realization. In this life, I have got this body, hence I have got some material duties. Great. Continue doing those material duties, but understand you're a spirit soul. Unless one comes to the spiritual platform, his bodily limbs, mind, and other facilities within the body are understood to be sleeping. Unless one is spiritually situated, all his activities are taken as a dead man's activities or ghostly activities. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has composed a song in which he addressed himself, O living entity, get up, get up. How long shall you sleep on the lap of Maya? Now you have the opportunity of possessing a human form of body. Now try to get up and realize yourself. Which song is this?
Jeev Jago, Prabhu.
Jeev Jago, Gora Chand. No. Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. Yes. Ota Nidra Gela Pisachira Khole. How long will you sleep in the lap of Maya? Soja beta, soja. ये life है सोने के लिए सो जा यही करता रहे the sense pleasure, this is all it is. No, that is why this acharyas are telling Jeev Jago, awake. The next line Prabhupada is telling, the Vedas also declare, get up, you have the opportunity to the boon of the human form of life. Uttishta Jagrata Prapta Varan. Uttishta Jagrata, Uttishta, get up. Jagrata, become awake. Praptavaran, achieve that highest thing that you can do in this human form of life. Now realize yourself. These are the Vedic injunctions. Unfortunately, these things you need a right receptive mind for all of us, to accept this. These are all slaps. How long will we sleep in this? Pisachira Kota Nidra Gela Pisachirokul. Kota nidra jao maya pisachirokul. How long? How many lifetimes have gone? Same, going after the same sense pleasures. So this is the first paragraph, which Prabhupada is talking about, that there is a spiritual senses which need to be enlivened. And right now, these are all dormant and sleeping. So let's see what Prabhupada says in the second paragraph. Dhruva Maharaj actually experienced that upon enlightenment of his senses on the spiritual platform, he could understand the essence of Vedic instruction, that the Supreme Godhead is the Supreme Person. He is not impersonal. So Dhruva Maharaj actually experienced. Now we will see this Brahman realization will continue in the next few verses as well. And the Supreme Absolute Truth, how to understand. 29th, 30th verse also will talk about that. We will see that in the subsequent classes. But he could experience that upon enlightenment of his senses, he could understand the essence of Vedic instruction that the Supreme Godhead is the Supreme Person. He is not impersonal. Actually, if we get this one understanding, which is there in 5.29 as well, but if you don't know the words, Bhuktaram Yagyatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suhridam Sarvabhutanam Gyantvamam Santi Marchati, we don't know that. Let's say we don't know. Even we have just this simple understanding that God is actually all powerful. God is all powerful because there is no problem in life which cannot be solved by the Lord. It may be too big, too difficult, too big for me, but not for the Lord. He can solve everything because He's all powerful. He's Akhila Sakti Dhara. Every energy, all this, He's the source of all energy. Everything is coming from Him. This is the first understanding. One may say, okay, I know that God is all powerful, but still, I am going through some problems which He may not know. No. God actually knows everything, omniscient. He knows all, each one of our hearts. He knows each desire that we are having. And that's why Bhagavad Gita, it is mentioned, Ye yatha maam prapadyante tam satheva bhajamya. You want to become forgetful of the Lord. You don't want Lord to be in your life. Fine. Matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha. Apohanam also comes from the Lord. He gives us the forgetfulness, you become forgetful. He ensures that you become completely forgetful and be trapped in this material life. So he is cognizant, he is aware, he knows each and every desire, each and every problem of our life. He is powerful, he is all-knowing. And the third thing, you may say that he is all-powerful, he can do everything. He is all-knowing also. But he is maybe, he's a sadist person. He wants to put me in, some kind of difficult situations or circumstances and might be getting pleasure. No, he's all-loving. He's all-loving. He wants us to come back from this miserable material existence. So if we know this, that the Supreme God, it's not like somebody who's got all the powers is keeping with him and he wants to punish us and he wants to put us in difficult situations. No, he's the source of all energy. He's omniscient and he's seeing, he's looking. When are you going to turn back? He's eagerly waiting. He's all loving. That's why Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam, he's the best well-wisher friend who's always there in every body, in every species of life. Dhruva Maharaj could immediately understand this fact. He was aware that for a very long time he was practically sleeping and he felt the impetus to glorify the Lord according to the Vedic conclusion. A mundane person cannot offer any prayer or glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead because he has no realization of the Vedic conclusion. We can't compose like Kunti Maharani, like Dhruva Maharaj. We can't do all this because we are sleeping. We have the realization of God has not happened. A mundane person cannot offer any prayer or glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead because he has no realization of the Vedic conclusion. But at least we can hear these prayers. We can understand, at least act like understanding, and see how these people have experienced this. This is the second paragraph. Let's go to the third one. Therefore, when Dhruva Maharaj found this difference within himself, he could immediately understand that it was because of the causeless mercy of the Lord. So he could understand this difference within himself. It is because of the causeless mercy of the Lord. He offered obeisance. What can you do in that kind of a situation? You are standing in front of the Lord. You are understanding your true position. You are understanding the position of the Lord. That's what self-realization is. Knowing one's constitutional position in relationship to the Supreme. Prabhupada is writing that. The Lord is so merciful. He's waiting for us to come back. I have got this problem. I've got this problem. What problem? These problems are meant to make you detached from this material world, meant to grow your dependence and surrender to the Lord. He could immediately understand that it was because of the causeless mercy of the Lord. He offered obeisances to the Lord with great respect and reverence, completely understanding that the Lord's favor was upon him. The spiritual enlivenment of Dhruva Maharaj's senses and mind was due to the action of the internal potency of the Lord. In this verse, therefore, the word Swadhamna means by spiritual energy. Mind you, now pay attention. Spiritual enlightenment is possible by the mercy of spiritual energy of the Lord. You may wonder that Dhruva Maharaj to Bhagwan aage samne wo ho gaya uska. Mera kya hoga? So Prabhupada is giving the clue. Spiritual enlightenment is possible by the mercy of spiritual energy of the Lord. Yes, the energy of the Lord belongs to, it is Lord's. Lord is the energetic. He has got all the energies, and including the internal energy or the spiritual energy. And that spiritual energy can enlighten us. And then Prabhupada is telling the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is first addressed to the spiritual energy of the Lord. Hare. So when we are addressing Hare Krishna mantra, it is first addressed to the spiritual energy. This spiritual energy acts when a living entity fully surrenders and accepts his position as an eternal servitor. That's what this purport is telling. This will act. The spiritual energy acts when a living entity fully surrenders and accepts his position as an eternal servitor. Like ye yatha mam prapadyante tams tatheva bhajamyaham. When we hold on, when we think we want to control ourselves, when we act on the dictation of false ego, surrender is not complete and the reciprocation is also not complete. The spiritual energy acts when a living entity fully surrenders and accepts his position as an eternal servitor. When a person places himself at the disposal or order of the Supreme Lord, that is called Sevan Mukho. At that time, the spiritual energy gradually reveals the Lord to him. Sevan Mukhehi Jivvado Swayameva Spruhati Yada. Atah Shri Krishna Namadi Na Bhavet Grahyam Indriye. We cannot understand, we cannot get this spiritual energy, the spiritual Lord, we cannot understand by our blunt, gross, material senses. Atah Shri Krishna Namadi Na Bhavet Grahyam Indriye. Sevan Mukho, Unmukho becomes inclined. When we turn, Sevan Mukhehi, when we turn towards this attitude of serving the Lord, becoming his servitor. Sevan Mukhehi, Unmukha, Sevan Mukhehi Jivvado, starting from our tongue by taking the names of the Lord. Hare, that is the spiritual energy of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is the third paragraph and the last paragraph. Without revelation by the spiritual energy, one is unable to offer prayers glorifying the Lord. Any amount of philosophical speculation or poetic expression by mundane persons is still considered to be the action and reaction of the material energy. You may some convoluted, concocted idea, nice embellishments and ornaments, and you say something which nobody in the world can understand, and you give a thesis. Explain that. So Prabhupada is writing, any amount of philosophical speculation or poetic expression by mundane persons is still considered to be the action and reaction of the material energy. Without revelation by the spiritual energy, one is unable to offer prayers glorifying the Lord. When one is actually enlivened by the spiritual energy, all his senses become purified and he engages only in the service of the Lord. Unless this happens, when one is actually enlivened, so actual enlivenment, you can't fake it. I am an advanced devotee. सब कुछ अभी देखो मेरा पूरा straight आ रहा है और जो भी है fully this all will not work. When one is actually enlivened by the spiritual energy, all his senses become purified and he engages only in the service of the Lord. At that time, his hands, legs, ears, tongue, mind, genitals, everything engages in the service of the Lord. Such an enlightened devotee no longer has any material activities, nor has he any interest in being materially engaged. This process of purifying the senses and engaging them in the service of the Lord is known as bhakti or devotional service. There is no other way actually. So unless we get that hara, the spiritual energy of the Lord, the senses will remain dormant and it will go for all sense gratification. We will never understand that we are actually a servant of the Lord. And the process of purifying the senses and engaging them in the service of the Lord is known as bhakti or devotional service. In the beginning, the senses are engaged by the direction of the spiritual master and sastra, and after realization, when the same senses are purified, the engagement continues. That's why the first process of bhakti that we follow is called Sadhana Bhakti, Viddhi Bhakti. Sadhana Bhakti means it's we don't have a taste, but we have this understanding that this is meant for my good and I do this. Do this like a military discipline. In the beginning, the senses are engaged by the direction. You have to follow the direction of the spiritual master and sastra. There is no other way to purify the senses. And unless the senses are purified, natural interest will never come. Oh, one day I'll sleep and get up, and then all of a sudden my heart will be overflowing of emotions towards the Lord. Oh Lord, where are you? Nothing is going to happen like that. Because we are Nitya Baddhas. That is why in the beginning stage, one has to be very obedient to follow the instructions of the spiritual master. Very, very strict. No, because mind will give all kinds of justifications, excuses, this thing and that thing. In the beginning, the senses are engaged by the direction of the spiritual master and sastra. And after realization, when the same senses are purified, the engagement continues. Then there is a natural, that is, what is that called? That natural, the Raganuga Bhakti. Where there is a spontaneous devotion for the Lord. There's nobody is coming and telling you at 4:30, get up for Mangala. So it's not, because you naturally are willing to, you're eagerly waiting that now this is the time I have to get up. You just jump from the bed and take a shower and come and be there in front of the Lord. There are some who are sleeping still, but that means the senses have not yet arrived. It has not yet purified. It's not been purified. When the same senses are purified, the engagement continues. The difference is that in the beginning, the senses are engaged in a mechanical way, but after realization, they are engaged in spiritual understanding. So, you can go on talking about this. Actually, the only thing, if you want to take from this class, remember this word Brahma Sansparsha and Sansparsha Jambhuva. And contemplate on this point that how trivial and how foolish and not having that far-sightedness to see that this is the source of misery. This is the source of repeated birth and death. Anadi Karmaphala, I am stuck in this. And whereas the promise of something which we have never experienced, it is possible. And that is what Rishabhadev is telling. Tapo divyam putraka suddhet yena sattvam cha sukham to anantam. So he's telling Tapo divyam, do that austerity. Right now our senses are not inclined. Mind is giving some arguments not to do this, but please do it. Please do it. This is what exactly happened to Dhruva Maharaj when he did that austerity with determination, that the Lord became pleased. His senses became enlivened. That same experience can be, we can experience that as Dhruva Maharaj did, if we associate with the spiritual things properly. Proper Brahma Sansparsha has to happen. Concurrent chanting come hearing. Chanting is happening mechanically, mind is somewhere else, some other thoughts are going on, then we are not touching the Lord at all. One name of the Lord is called Jana Nivasa. In the conclusion of Krishna book, in the 90th chapter, there are 4 or 5 conclusions which are given by Sukadeva Goswami. One of them is the Lord is seated in our heart, in all our hearts, Jana Nivasa, as Paramatma. He's there, he's seeing all our desires. He's seeing our sincerity, he's seeing our fake attempt, he's seeing everything. When we become sincere, when we take it very seriously, now let me follow the instructions of my spiritual master 100%. Let my mind say anything, I don't care, let me do this. And we engage our senses in devotional service. We do it with utmost sincerity. This may be physically austere, this may be mentally austere, Let me do it. When we do that, we can actually experience, like Dhruva Maharaj. We can get a glimpse of it. When we are reading Bhagavad Gita, when we are reading Bhagavatam, which is non-different from the Lord, we can experience this. We can actually see Krishna face to face, Prabhupada says. You're saying, how will I see Krishna? You can see Krishna face to face. When we are standing in front of the deities, when we are having the darshan, the deities which are non-different from the Lord, who have manifested in this stone or the metal form, we can experience the deity. We can experience Krishna face to face. It can all happen provided our spiritual senses become enlivened. And that is possible by Brahma Sansparsha. When we allow ourselves to be touched, when we have proper darshan, how do we have darshan of the Lord? Shrutek Shita. The Lord is not to be seen by our material eyes. We have to hear about him, and hearing is more important than seeing. When we hear the Vedic injunctions, when we hear the instructions of our spiritual master, and when we stand before the deity, our darshan becomes more lively. This is not same, darshan. It's not a what to do. Or some people come, they just do one pranam and then they go. They don't even have the darshan of the Lord properly. It can all happen. So if we are mindful of this Brahma Sansparsha, whenever we are coming in touch with any spiritual substance, if we are mindful and associating with proper association, then the spiritual senses will enliven. And when that happens, Atyantam Sukhamashnu. We can experience that spiritual happiness, which is eternal. I'll stop here and see if you have any questions or comments. I had some other things to say, but stop here. Any question? What are some of the things which make association improper? Brahma Sansparsha. So, one of the most important things to my understanding is familiarity. One of the biggest roadblocks. There is a verse which I was seeing when I was doing that research on familiarity breeds contempt. In 11th canto, there's a very interesting mention that sometimes it appears that the moon is rising from an ocean or from some river or somewhere. If you are seeing from a distance, it appears as if the moon has risen from an ocean. So a fish who's there in the water is thinking moon is my brother. No moon, okay, yeah. So like that, sometimes, when too much familiarity happens with all these things, be it holy name, be it deities, be it devotees, we lose value. Our association is not proper. We don't associate properly. Even though we are standing before the deities, even though we are chanting the names of the Lord, even though we are taking prasadam, we lose values because, everything we take it granted. So that that understanding that these are spiritual substance, and I need to have that, I should be present in that moment when I'm doing that. I'm doing this chanting, let me just keep all other material things away. Let me focus on this mindfully, heartfully, let me do this. So when we do that, then the senses get enlivened. That is first. The second thing is Vaishnava Aparadha. The biggest drawback to our spiritual life is committing offense against Vaishnavas. So what it does is, see, basically Bhakti Lata Bij is put in the heart by the mercy of the spiritual master. Brahmanda Brahmite Kon Bhagyavanji Guru Krishna Prasada Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. So Bhakti Lata Bij is put in the heart. But when somebody does offenses against a Vaishnava, or the Vaishnava curses or something happens, actually, if you see the purport of two verses, one is when this Jaya Vijay were cursed by 4 Kumaras, they were born as demons. And in 7.9.26 or 28, Prahlad Maharaj is telling when Narasimha Dev is asking, ask for any benediction. I'm very pleased with your austerities and everything. Ask for anything. He's telling that I want to serve Narada Muni. Nipatitam, actually, I'm born in the family of demons. I didn't have that elevated consciousness. By the mercy of Narada Muni, you came before me. So you were there, but you came just because I got to know about you from Narada Muni. So how can I forget, serving him? So in that connection, actually, Prabhupada is writing that if we become envious or find faults or do some offenses against Vaishnavas, then our heart becomes hard-hearted. And this hard-hearted heart cannot be melted by bhakti. It is hard now. And then what it happens is it makes you repulsive. It makes you drift away from this. Bhaktilata bees is not able to sprout and come out of it because the heart has become hard. Any other questions, comments? This is actually a beautiful section, and actually the way Prabhupada has explained, just amazing. So if we keep seeing these verses and keep meditating and contemplating upon them sufficiently, I'm sure we'll all be benefited. The motivation for us, the inspiration for us should be that let me do this so that I can experience that spiritual happiness. That once that actually we all have experienced it somewhere or other. There is a glimpse of it, otherwise we would have not been here. But it is just that we bring in some familiarity, some mechanical way of doing, and some things here and there goes wrong or something. We don't experience it continuously, but we deserve. We being spirit souls, we are Satchidan Ananda. We are actually blissful, and that bliss can be experienced by this Brahma Sansparsha. No other questions? We'll stop here. Can I request all of you to come in front of your camera and raise your hands? We will chant once Hare Krishna Maha. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. जय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की, जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, आनंदे
हरि हरि बोल।
हरे कृष्णा माता जी।
हरे कृष्ण।
हरे कृष्ण।